And I have 1 o'clock, you guys. So I am just going to come on camera just for a quick second to say hello in person and thank you guys for being here. My name is Kathy Nettie, and I'm going to walk you through the staff row composite feature in DP2 version 21. If you don't have version 21 yet, then this will be just a little prelude to some of the cool stuff that we've done with composites to make it a little bit easier for you guys to get where you need to be in fulfilling your composite job. So bye for now. I'm going to go off camera and then I'll go through a couple of slides here in the PowerPoint. Before I do that, guys, just if you don't mind, those of you who are on the line now, just give me one more hand raise. If you hear me okay, if you see this staff row composite screen okay, perfect. I love checking in with you during the session. It's a way for us to connect, even though we're here connecting virtually. And also, I'll tell you, I kind of keep on getting this message that pops up that says that I might be experiencing some degraded audio quality. So if anything happens to audio, give me a hand raise. I mean, when I ask you guys to check in, you'll give me a hand raise, but if I see that hand raise, I'll know that there's something up, and or even shoot me a question for the Mary and Chris if you don't have mics, and will just give me a heads up if all of a sudden you don't hear me anymore. So let me just go to page 2 of my presentation here. This is what we're going to be covering. I always kind of like to show the end result first so that you know what we're going to be creating and what the ultimate goal is. We have some new Kodak kids actually, but we do have some blasts from the past. You can see me kind of my cursor hovering the first row, which is a staff row. These are our very old group of Kodak kids that have been around for a long time. I had a couple on a green background. So these are really serving as my staff. So I'm going to concentrate on doing a design similar to this, where the first row is a designated staff row. And the way I'm going to set it up, guys, is I'll have 6 nodes on the top. But you can see with these that in this grade, grade 9, I only used 4 out of the 6, and those are centered automatically for me. For grade 8, I have the same principal, different teachers, some of the same staff here, just using examples, obviously. But in this case, there were actually 5 staff in this particular grade. So in this case as well, those 5 nodes are centered automatically. So this really changes the game when it comes to the amount of work that you guys used to have to do prior to version 21 to complete these staff row composites, where, and I'm not sure if you guys were actually doing them before or you're doing them now using, you know, the preceding method to do it in DP2. But we kind of had to jump through quite a few manual hoops. You had to choose the right group of composites that had 4 staff node. So you kind of had to have this crystal ball in front of you so that you knew how many staff were in this grade versus this homeroom versus this group. I'm using school as an example here, guys, but you know, obviously these composites are good for you know, dance squads, bands, sports, whatever the church directories, I mean, whatever the group is. So we'll concentrate on the design and the end result for fulfilling these types of, we call them staff row composites, but things have gotten so much easier, so much better in this version of DP2. So I'm bouncing over to DP2 now. If anything that I've said so far sparks a question, guys, go ahead. I'll keep my eye on that question box. There's not many of us on the call today, so one way to kind of keep it interactive is feel free, you know, to answer, or I'm sorry, to ask your questions during this session, and I'll come up for air once in a while and take a pause and check in with you guys, and I'll address the questions that come in. So, and because I'm not familiar with, you know, those of you on the line, your composite background in DP2, take this session today for what it's worth and get out of it what you need. Maybe you just want a high-level overview today to see what's what and to kind of make sense of it. Don't get lost in any of the right clicks or the details, or remembering where I go first, second, third, fourth, fifth in a linear fashion. Don't worry about any of the detail. For one, this is recorded. For another, at the end of this session, I have an e-learning course that's out on our service desk to show you that will help you with composites. I'll be putting together a staff row one specifically, but between this recording, between the resources that we have for you, between the help that's in DP2 already in version 21, and probably the best one yet, you can just request a dedicated one-on-one training session via our service desk training request option, and we'll work with you one-on-one to get you there. So I'm going to open up from the shoot description data table. The shoot is the top of the hierarchy when it comes to organizing school shoots or sports shoots, multiple images, multiple data related to those images, multiple shoot days, perhaps multiple photographers, shooting the same school, and all of those orders coming in separately. The shoot is what can tie all of that data together. So it's a one-to-many relationship. But I'm going to go to the end result, guys, which is the Composite Job Generator. I have a dedicated session on this next week. This is what we call the icing on the cake, because at this point, your designs, I'm kind of adhering obviously to a staff row design, your staff composites have already been created. So that design work has already been completed. And here I am just fulfilling some composite jobs with my staff row composites. So I'm not going to get into all the detail here. I will save some of the mechanics for how to maneuver around this composite job generator. I'll definitely save the mechanics for next week when I dedicate a session to really getting to know this tool a little bit better. But I'll give you a heads up. It's really just a matter of repetition. That's the nature of anything. Once you get to know it and you jump that little learning hurdle, then you're good to go. So I'm just going to load this 8x10 staff row composite definition that I have for my sample order. I have a certain group by criteria that will group the students accordingly by grade and homeroom. I want them sorted alphabetically on the last name. And I'm just going to cruise through here quickly. I have these staff nodes already set up. I use a naming convention. And after this, I'm going to backtrack and I'm going to show you how to design the staff composite. So again, this is the end result, because I always like you guys to keep that end result in mind as we're doing the design. I always find that's a good place to start. So I have these staff nodes set up. I use a naming convention of R1, R2, R3, R4, R5, just to reserve it. Doesn't matter what names you use. I'll enforce that when I'm in the design portion of this after this fulfillment portion. I use T1 for my text nodes, T2 for another text node. By default, you get the background. You could stick a graphic in there. And then the countable default nodes, you get that by default too. That's where the main group population, like the students, go. But then I have these special kind of reserved ones for teachers and staff. And there's some kind of sophisticated macros going on for at least a couple of them that say, well, principal, there's only one principal in the order, so that's just a kind of a generic tagged macro. But some of the teacher ones are a little bit more sophisticated that say find the teacher out of the data that has a matching grade, and then they have some sort of identifier, right, sitting in some other column in your data. And I have a nice style rather that gives the contents of the node. I think it's all inclusive of both the stroke around the image node and white font and a particular font. So I have everything tricked out basically, guys, and ready to go. So on the groups tab, and you kind of progress through these left to right. Again, I'll get into a lot more detail in this in my dedicated session next week on the Composite Job Generator. So I'm going to play around with grades 8 and 9. I have 17 students in grade 8, 12 students in grade 9. I could, of course, select many more groups to create, but those are the ones I kind of hung out at to prepare for today's session. So I'll just use those and I'll create it. DP2 is always kind of telling us what it's doing on the status bar of wherever you are. So it just created order item number 40 and order item number 41 for the grade 9 group. Then I'll progress to here, guys, and just show those items. And because I had some other ones that I've been playing around with, it separates those 40 and 41 by the grade. So you kind of have to get to know this. This is the stuff I'll talk a little bit more about. But I'm just going to select the ones that I just created. Order item 40 for the group in the 8th grade. Order item 41 for the group in the 9th grade. And this is obviously where cool things start to happen because I've already designed, the layout. So I'm going to backtrack and show you the design layouts. But again, I love to show these end results first. So give these a second to render. And so you can see I have all my nodes. I'll zoom in a little bit on this one. So you can see I have all the nodes are shown, obviously. These are called placeholders. I'll be showing you how to do that. But you can see my staff row here, right? You can see that the staff row from the design perspective, all right? So when it was designed, I said, okay, I might have a max of 6 images in my staff row. But in this case, the data, that I was showing you on the node details tab, it only had 5 staff. So this is cool. There's a way to disable this from view. It would never render, like this when you render it. These are just saying, hey, I want to see this stuff, as I'm working with it. So, you wouldn't have to actually do that. But in this case, I did. I selected that show hidden nodes. I disabled that. And it doesn't look like this image has the same style as the other ones, but that's a minor thing. I just probably forgot to do that. So you can see how DP2 is automatically out of your maximum of 6. So you you definitely have to decide when you're designing your staff row composites, what's my maximum number? You might have a couple of different sets where, for this type of school or this type of work, you're going to have a whole bunch of staff. So, you might have 2 staff rows. Doesn't have to be limited to 1 staff row. You can see this like enclosing node. That's actually what we call it. And I'll show you how when you design these composites, you're just going to select the nodes, you're going to hit a create staff node button, and it's going to create this node enclosure, and then good things happen from there. But you could have a second, staff row somewhere else on the page. I don't know if that's too likely. I don't think I've seen that necessarily, but you guys know the types of staff row composites that you need to design. Obviously, in this session, this 45-minute session, I'm not addressing all of your needs and all of your variables. So please, after this session, during this session, ask your questions, request training one-on-one, and we'll help you bring your needs to life, obviously. This other one, grade 9, I'll zoom in on this. We are having a slight issue, but it's good that we figured it out. And the next build we put on the service desk to replace the one that was just released will have this minor fix in it, and you'll be notified of that. So in this case, for grade 9, I only had 4 staff. But again, this is a design set that has up to 6 on my staff row. These are, again, placeholders. You'll see me build this. And I'm going to do that same show hidden nodes here. And it's not getting rid of this one right now just because, I'll tell you why. And I don't know if any of you are this far ahead in your testing or not, but I just want to cover it just in case. I still have a macro that says put this data, put this image, put this text in R5. That's my R5 node. I could open up my properties and show you those node boxes, but that's the one. Well, what it is putting in there, we discovered earlier today, is that it's putting a space, or maybe there's a carriage return in here. And the way this was designed, it basically says, if there's anything in either the image node or the text node, you know, you better display it. So that's being fixed right now, guys. And so the idea is, yes, you can have one set of rules, one set of macros that fills in all 6 staff nodes if that's the case for any particular group or grade. But if it's not, no, you wouldn't have to touch these. You wouldn't have to make any modifications based on your data, based on these macros. If there's someone there, great. If there's someone there, you know, if there's someone not, that's great too. And DP2 will take care of all the centering and the justification and everything that you would want to automate. So with that, I'm going to jump to the design side of the house. I can come back here and wrap around this again if I have time. But as I'm transitioning, are there any questions? I'll take a peek in the questions box now, guys. Or if you're doing okay, so far so good, you want to give me a hand, high, I kind of call it a high five at this point because if it's not a question. But if you guys are doing okay, I'd love to see that anyway. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Good. I'll put that down then, those down. Oh, Chris, you did have a question. Oh, good. Chris, you gave me a comment. Awesome. I appreciate it. That's great too. So far, so good from Chris, he says. So let's create that staff row composite. I'll use a similar example that I was just showing you the end result of. I kind of like to tie it together. I'm going to right click in the products table. I'll move through this pretty quickly because again, this is not your be all end all to learning how to do staff row composites. Take it at a high level, get what you need to, know that the detail follows this in the form of the recording, the e-learning, the help file, and of course, reaching out to us individually. So let me do a new composite product. It's up here at the top. And I'm going to create a new set of composite products without a predefined pattern. That's the second option here. You could work with existing patterns if you've been doing patterns and composite layouts in DP2. Really what this version does, version 21, guys, when it comes to the new way of doing composites, is it combines those 2 steps. You don't have to have a different setup. You don't have to have, you know, all of your patterns created, like your smallest group of 10 up to your largest group of 4. Before you had to create, you know, all of those patterns, then you had to go to step 2 and say, okay, I want to use those patterns to create layouts. Then you go to step 3, which is the Composite Job Generator that I just came from. Well, the beautiful part about this is that step 1 and step 2 are pretty much the same using this Composite Helper, which I'm just about to get to. I don't know, I kind of start in the middle. There's definitely different methods of madness as to, do you start small and go big? Do you start big and go small? I kind of start somewhere in the middle. Class sizes around, you know, 20 down to 15 up to 30, something like that. So I'm just going to call this my e-learning, I can't talk and type, 8x10 comps or X comps, comps. And with 24, there's a default directory here for grid layouts. That's kind of cool to keep the default, because then we can kind of help you find them. And you know what happens? Well, you know what happens. Maybe someone in your lab was creating composites last year, and then next year somebody else is going to be creating composites, or there's some turnover. It's always nice to kind of use some of our default locations so that we can help you get back there. So this is just saving it in that default location. That's our recommendation. You guys can do what you need to do based on your server and file location though, obviously. Good things start to happen pretty quickly here. Here's a layout, a composite layout. All right, so this is what I mean by how patterns and layouts now come together in one task. I've got a great starting block for this staff row composite. This product images table opens up by default, and then this composite helper opens up too. I'm going to point this out right from the start. We want you to always make sure that the layout, in this case layout.024, always matches the the header up here in the composite helper, because once you get more than one of these created, and that's the whole idea. I'm going to start with layout 24 and design it in a way that's going to work for every other layout I do, 25 through 35 or 23 down to 10 or whatever those number ranges need to be. So you might have been on Pat's session the other day where you might have seen some of these design element type things going on. I'm just going to draw a box and create an image node. I'm going to take a second to get rid of our friend Shirley out of there. I'm actually going to move this down to here because I want to create a similar design of the one that you guys were just seeing, and I want to do staff row. So there's an image node for that block of school data, for example, and I'll reposition, and good things start to happen, but I didn't really pay much attention, so I'm going to start redesigning this. I only want that to occupy one row. So yeah, this is looking good. I kind of like this. And then another good habit to do early on, you guys, is to set your output spec. It doesn't have to be done here. There's a way to set the output spec when you get over here on these tabs, but I just like to point out a couple of different ways of doing it. And you might be in a really good habit right now in DP2 of, as soon as you create a design, you set the output spec, you choose the Q, you choose the resolution. So my point here is, whatever you do, in the design portion for layout 24, that's what will be carried over into the other layouts that, of course, we're going to create, because we still have to have the right number layout to pacify and satisfy the number of images in our group. If there's 12 kids, if there's 20 kids, if there's 35 kids, if there's 40 band members, whatever it is, we have to have a layout that will work with that number. From a design perspective, I'm going to do a couple of other things first. I'm going to select the first node and the last node. Kind of give you a second to see my mouse moving around on your screen. And I'm going to go to the nodes tab. Well, I'll change a couple of things here. This is not a class where we definitely get into all of this detail, but seeing this more than once, if you've seen it in the webinar, if you saw it earlier this week in Pat's class, it's never a bad idea. You could change all these parameters. How wide do you want your text boxes to be relative to the node boxes? How tight do you want your margins and gaps to be? 1/4 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch. And then when you hit this reposition button here, things start to happen based on what you're saying should happen. I might want to make this a little bit smaller and then reposition again to see if I can start occupying that space. Really, the design, guys, is totally up to you. But as you make changes to your design, reposition over here so that if you're hanging out here or too much over there and there's not enough room for a node anymore. All right, so I'm almost there for staff row. This is kind of review stuff. I'm going to make these guys up here. I'm going to go to this second tab, which is nodes. I'm going to make those placeholders. So now everything kind of shifts because I still am working on layout 24, right? So far, anyway, until I make this a staff row. So now I like the looks of this. I like the balance of this. I don't want that node selected. I only want this row of the top 6 nodes selected, which are currently countable. Countable nodes basically is the way that the Composite Job Generator, that first step that I was showing you. If the nodes are countable, that's how the software flows in the group based on what I wanted, like a last name alphabetical sort, so this would be countable 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And then when you say, hey, I want everybody in alphabetical order, well, that's how the images get flowed into the design, is based on those sequential countable node numbers. But in this case, I want this to be a staff row. So these will not be countable nodes. As soon as I come over here to the right, give you a second to see where I'm going on the right, and I'm going to hit create staff row. Are you sure you wish to create a staff row from the 6 nodes? You will not be able to undo this operation. Well, so to speak, right? You could delete, you could start again, you could not save this. I mean, so yeah, there's ways to, get yourself out of a little jam like that. So now it's a staff row. So you can see this becomes enabled. I have this enclosing node around it. That's what we refer to it here as the developers were designing it. We really don't call it as such over here. And I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'm going to show you what happens. There's a way to save it. You can save it from the file menu, file save, or you can use this save button on the Composite Helper. And notice what happens. It's down to really layout.18. It's not 24 anymore. I started at 24, so I'm going to save it as layout 18 because now this is the composite that would be used when I have a student group or a group of whoever minus the staff that equals 18. Okay, how you guys doing so far? Because I have really good things to continue to show you. So far, so good. Can I check in with you with a hand raise or a high five? Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Okay, any questions? Let me know. I'm pausing here to monitor that. All right, good. So the idea, whether you're doing a staff row composite, which is obviously the idea of this session, or if you weren't doing a staff row composite, maybe you didn't make these a staff row, there's a step coming up now that you could still reserve these nodes and then use a macro inside of the Composite Job Generator to put a specific image there. The only difference with not designating it as a staff row, if you left these as countable nodes and you called this, which I'm going to start doing, R1 through R6, and again, if you did not hit this button that said create staff row, the difference would be is that maybe for some classes you only had 4 staff. Well, guess who would start showing up here? One of your students. And some of your designs, that's exactly what you want to happen. All right, you want a student to just start naturally flowing in to the next available node, and then not really have to worry about making a specific staff row composite. I mean, you might have been doing that in preceding versions of DP2 just because it was such a pain to really do very specific staff row composites and having the right numbers worked out. So anyway, this will not happen. These are no longer countable. So, and you can actually, I can show you, what node this is. This is now node 10,002. Look at what's happening over here, 10,003, 4 through 7, where this one is countable nomenclature, node 1, node 2, node 3, node 4. But I'm going to have to start giving these custom names so that when we get to the icing on the cake step, which is the Composite Job Generator, that's the step I started you guys with, we need names to reserve to use these nodes for the macros. So I'm going to come back here to my custom nodes drop down. And I know some of you guys use very similar conventions. I just like to call it R1. Now that one's called R1. You'll see this list build just for reserved, because I don't know who's going to go there, right? I might use this set of composites for school staff. I might use this set of composite for a church directory with the officers on the top row. I might use it for a band with, the certain, I don't know, instruments or whatever on the top. I don't know, but I don't like to call these, node names really anything other than generic, because you can put whoever you want in there based on any column and any data. So there's no relationship really between the name of the node and who ultimately is going to go there based on your data. So I've been talking and typing, which really is not good for me. I usually mess things up when I do that, but I'm going to take a look. R6, R5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's cool. I'll leave it as that. I would give this a name too. I would call this my image block or main text or main data, something along those lines. My other design that I first showed you guys, that also had like some other, maybe a text box here or something, so the idea is to build up your first design both in nodes and style and overall layout and design. And I could give this a T1 name. So this is what you do on the nodes tab. You know, you name your nodes so that you can basically get to them when it comes to using and fulfilling those with certain data. Now the cool thing, let's say that this layout 18 is good to go. Well, I need to save it. I could use the save on the previous tab. Save is on both edit and nodes. It's not on manage, so I'm going to use this saving opportunity under the file menu, file save. And now I'm going to select layout 18. I still have my 24, and I'll go up from there. I'll do layout 19. I'll overwrite 24 because I was really just using that to get to this ultimate one. I'll go up to 25, and I'll overwrite. Now I don't need an output spec because I already remember I took a second and I clicked on the output to disk and selected my queue and my resolution. So that's my output spec. It's already embedded in this layout. If you had not done that, you could choose this require output spec. You could come down here and find and navigate to your output spec that's saved as a text file. Sometimes that's a pain though, you know, to save an output spec as a text file. If you already have them saved as text files, fine. If you don't, it's probably easier to build it in here and then not worry about this output spec option here. I'm just going to point this out quickly again. You know, I am reviewing some of the information that you guys may have seen in other sessions, and I hope that's okay. I just think it makes sense to say a little something about the other stuff that's here. Repetition is sometimes good anyway. You could pre-embed all these nodes, the countables, the text nodes, the image and text nodes, which would be basically all of these, with predefined styles. You know, styles define color, font, stroke, shadow, frame, whatever it is. You might do that in your layouts. You might not. You might wait until what I was showing you and choose those styles in step 3, which is the Composite Job Generator. So I'm not going to choose them here, but that is an option. And I'm going to go ahead and create 19 to 25 from 18. If I had not saved layout 18, you guys, before I started this, DP2 would tell me and remind me to do that. But you'll be able to see DP2 getting busy down here. So it looks like it actually starts big, you know, and it went down. So this is cool. Now you can start kind of examining what these other layouts look like, because you might want to make some balance, offset, placeholder, design choices. Couple of ways to do it. I could select layout 19 and hit edit. And you really want to keep your eye on 2 things. I'm going to remind you. The layout over here says layout 19. Make sure that your composite helper that says edit composites is also the one for 19. That looks pretty good to me. Another cool way to do this is on either the edit tab or the nodes tab, you could start using this previous method. So by hitting previous and hit previous again, let me see which one I'm on here. Actually, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's going to start going down. So it actually took me to 25 because I didn't have one selected, and that's fine. You know, I might look at this layout 25 and I might not like the offsets and, you know, the margins and, you know, maybe a variety of things. So this is where you can, of course, just start coming in, making design changes on this one now, layout 25. And again, hopefully you're already kind of getting used to, is this the right number that's over here, 25 nodes, when I come over here and hit reposition. So I like this space that I'm using. I don't particularly like the balance, so I'll remind you guys of the things that you can do here. You can make those placeholders, and then all of a sudden you get this nice tapered look. And once you get this 25 looking the way you want, well, that's when, you know, you want to save it, and either here from the file menu or this save button here. And then of course you can keep stepping and going through, and now this will open up 24. I could do the same thing with 24. If you find that you're like it probably would have been best, you guys, for, you know, me to make that design change on 25 that I just did. And then I probably would have been better off to recreate, you know, go back to manage using 25 as a base and then recreate, you know, maybe 24 or 25. So there's different design philosophies to think about. I'll just do a placeholder there, and I'll go ahead and save this one. And I'm just going to show you this one more time, and then I'll start to like kind of tie things together again. I'll go to that layout 18, and let's say I want to drop down to 12 and create 12 to 17. So I'll go ahead and create another set based on that design for 18. You can see DP2 getting busy here. Now I have 18 selected. So now if I go to the previous one here, it should probably open layout. Oh, it's actually doing 23. So I'd probably have to come here and hit edit to see what 17 looks like. So you just have to kind of bounce around and see how your designs look. You might do smaller ranges than the ranges that I'm doing, just so that you don't have to make, you know, so many subtle, I consider these pretty subtle changes, the ones that I'm making now. But I think you guys probably get the idea. I'd probably have to shift this stuff over, reposition so that I could use some space over here. I think you guys get the idea. All right, so let me close this. I'm not gonna, and I'll just use my other set that I did before. And I'm just gonna remind you of really the icing on the cake, the best part about it. Once the designs are done, I'll go back to the Composite Job Generator. 2 ways to get to the Composite Job Generator now. As of, I think it was version 20, you can get to the Composite Job Generator from your order data table 2 with a right click. And that's for those of you that don't tie multiple orders together with a shoot description. You can still get to it this way. You know, it could be a 1 shoot to 1 order relationship, but just a reminder that there is an order data right click menu in the view menu to get to the Composite Job Generator. I'll load my composite data again. Here you can see I have those 5 macros on this node detail setup. When I go through this class Composite Job Generator next week, you guys will see me set this screen up from scratch, and that's pretty valuable if you need some help and a refresher in training it all on the Composite Job Generator. That will be a very helpful session if you do need that level of detail. If you've already mastered this, then you're probably good to go, and there's not a whole lot new to show you here other than this cool part of it where you can actually insert a layout into that my image block node. In this case, I'm actually inserting in a pre-existing layout that you might have for the school logo and background and stuff like that. So then I'm just repeating what I did here, you know, working with groups 8 and 9. I'll go ahead and choose those similar designs. I mean, I'm not choosing the exact designs that I just did, but I was showing you the design steps that I'm going through. Let those open, and I see a question too, so thanks for that. 1 second, let me pull that up. Those should open. Let me go here and just open them up for you. I think I just did 42 and 43. Let me show those items. Can you make one with a lot more nodes, like 400? Yeah, Mary, I mean, definitely. Unless, I mean, I'm not sure if your question pertains to kind of, I don't know, are you thinking that there was a limitation at all in DP2's history? I mean, there was a long time ago, but I doubt that's what you're thinking. But yes, Mary, you can create a layout that's really tricked out. I think we, at one point, guys, we went up to like 1,200. I'm almost positive. I'm almost sure, something like that. I keep on hitting show items. See, I can't talk and work at the same time. So if you have a follow-up question to that, Mary, let us know. Let me know. But yes, the answer is yes. You can definitely push it well beyond that. That kind of bounced me out of DP2. I don't think I crashed though, guys, here. So those are rendering now. And again, the last thing that I did Oh, good. All right, Mary, I'm glad to see that you haven't been using DP2. So you're seeing how it works. That's awesome. And I just want to remind you again that we are totally here for you. Use our service desk. Let us help you. You know, if you want to kind of get your hands, you know, a little wet and try it on your own, that's really cool too. So, but just, you know, we will help you. We'll help you get there for sure. All right, guys, there's a couple of other things before we run out of time here. It's 1:40 that I want to make sure that I cover with you guys. So again, Mary, it'll be really good for you to see the detail next week on this screen. So I hope to see you again for next week, because getting to know the Composite Job Generator is a little tricky, only because so much is going on. But I always refer to it as the icing on the cake, because it's all good stuff. Your designs are, you know, over and done with. You just kind of have to go through these tabs and these screens one by one and fill everything in accordingly, and then you're good to go. So one other thing I wanted to show you guys, it's pretty cool, and we really want your feedback on it, if you don't mind. I assume you know about our service desk. That's probably where you signed up for this session. I know that's where you hit us up for any problems that you're experiencing or request for a feature. This is how you're going to hit us up for training, one-on-one training. Just go ahead and put that in there. But I want to show you this. Here's our knowledge base. We have these micro learning session registrations. The ones for next week are up there now. There's micro learning recordings that we've posted from sessions in the past. This is what I want to show you, Composite Helper. It's an e-learning course that we just put together. And I don't know if you work with e-learning courses very much, but I'll pull it up here in a second as soon as my screen loads. It says click here to begin, or you can just click anywhere on the image, and that'll basically take you out online to this. I used a program called Articulate to build this e-learning course, so I'm just using that host as a service for hosting this. But you'll just go ahead and start the course. It's going to tell you a little bit about it, and then you can the cool thing about this is you can be, you know, viewing and listening to this course on your cell phone or any device. It's going to reformat and resize relative to the screen that you're looking at. You get this side navigation panel over here. Some of these sections, as they're called, are videos. So I'm on the welcome section, and if I play this, you'll hear my voice because I'm the one that recorded that. So that would go through a little welcome, and then it would even show you progress, right, that's completed. Then this gets you started with the Composite Helper. This is also a video. This one's not a video. It's a way to kind of explore more of the edit tab of the Composite Helper on your own. You click on these things and some cool information pops up. This one actually is a tiny little brief video for this part of the screen. The Nodes tab is a video. The Manage tab, these are all the tabs I just took you through, but in a very accelerated fashion. So this e-learning course is your way, you guys, to kind of dissect this on your own, have something that you can stop and start that's not a linear video. We're going to post this very linear video from this session on our service desk, but it's a heck of a lot easier for you guys to get to the place and location if you were to use this e-learning course. But because it's the first one that we're really making available to you guys, we would love to get your feedback on, you know, the value that you find, and, you know, was it the right information to get you pointed in the right direction? Was it enough information to get you started, and, you know, maybe even cause some trouble? Because once you learn new features and functions, you know, sometimes you do go down a wrong path and things might not go perfectly the way you want them to, but that's all a really great learning experience. So we would love you to let us know. You could let us know on this last is really just saying, hey, let us know, visit our service desk. You could click on a training request, and even if it's not a request, you could just let us know what you thought of this e-learning training. I think Sue Katz is going to help hit you guys up too for some feedback on this one and only e-learning course that's up there now, because if we get some good feedback early on, we'll have a couple of others out there, probably regardless of the feedback that we get. We'll probably have a couple of others up there pretty soon, like one on the staff row I just did, and maybe another topic as well. But being that you guys are the first ones that I'm introducing the e-learning course that's out there too, if you have a need and desire to take this Composite Helper training a step further by doing it on your own, obviously that assumes you have version 21 installed. You could always install version 21 on a standalone system just so that you could check it out and test it, and maybe do it hand in hand with this e-learning class as well. So guys, I'm always a stickler for time. I have 1:45, and that's how long these very small chunks of information, these e-learning courses, are designed to go. So in this last minute, if you have a hand raise, if you just want to say, hey, all is good, if you have a question at all, give me a hand raise and I'll open up the phone line. Well, for those of you that do have audio, I can do that. Or if you have another question. Mary, you're going to be with me next week too. Awesome. Good, you guys. Very cool improvement. Chris is saying, I think the folks that do our custom composites will be impressed how easy it is. Awesome initial feedback. I am so glad that you guys were here. Well, thanks so much. I'll catch you next time. Check out that e-learning for us, and we're here to help you one-on-one too. Have a great rest of your day, you guys. Take care.